I will be talking to Nick Thomas. Nick was hard for me to track down. Hey, Nick, what's going on, man?
Not much. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I really appreciate. First, I want to start off by saying I really appreciate you doing this for me.
Oh, absolutely. I was thrilled when you asked me to be a part of this. I don't do a ton with social media in the first place. Tyler and I, we were in each other's kind of atmospheres from a very young age. My parents made me play basketball because I was tall. We did a lot of basketball stuff together when we were real young. I transferred into his school in 8th grade, and we started going to school together then. We probably became really good friends in high school. We played varsity basketball together, and we sang together a lot at school. And then senior year, we started just by ourselves playing some stuff together. He had some real early on songs that he had written that I played some guitar on. I don't know what No Fun Intended entails as far as what songs are on there, but I did probably play on a few of them. At the time, Chris was living in a house where they ran a recording studio, and he and Tyler had become friends at a party we had all been at through a mutual friend in high school, and they met there and started talking music. Chris was looking for an outlet to play drums again. They started recording some of this rough stuff that Tyler had at Chris's studio, and they wanted to play a show. So Tyler asked me, do you think you could play a bass? I had never played a bass, and I said, I'll give it the winner's effort. I don't know. I came over, we rehearsed some songs. I picked up the bass and played along with them, and I think 2 or 3 days after that, we played our first show. We weren't calling ourselves 21 Pilots yet, but that was the first time we played together. There was a guy that played guitar with us that night. That was a one-time thing. We never used a guitarist again after that. Not because it didn't go well, it's just because different things going on, and it was just the three of us that decided that the band was what we wanted to do. Tyler and I especially had a lot of people and friends that we knew in Columbus. We were able to bring a lot of people out to see our shows that were just acquaintances of ours. But at the time, Columbus was just saturated with metal bands and hardcore bands. So every bill we fell into, we were sandwiched in between these metal bands, and we just didn't fit. And I think that was a big reason why people noticed us. Well, from day one, Tyler just had extraordinary music for us to play. I mean, he had just written great songs. The day that I came in, I thought, this really has a chance to be something special. And he had a lot of material for us to play, even from the very first show. Well, when he first played me those songs, it was just his own work. I was honored that he wanted to play them for me. Tyler and I bounced musical ideas off each other all the time. We worked really well together with music. We both loved music. We liked a lot of the same artists. It was kind of a natural musical bond. I was just wildly impressed the first time he played me some tracks that he had been in the process of. When he had the idea for us to try to put something together and play them in a live setting, I was all in. I was so excited. I think it's safe to say that the band would have never begun if it weren't for Chris Solly. I mean, he came into the picture with a lot of knowledge that we didn't have, a lot of gear that we didn't have, because he worked at Guitar Center. He lived with guys that ran a recording studio, and he'd been in a band a lot. So he just came into it with way more expertise than we had. He kind of carried the weight in the beginning. That whole self-titled record was in the loft of our house that we lived in. We didn't have a bunch of songs together that we were thinking this is going to be a record. So Tyler was writing songs. He was playing them for us. We were learning them. We had little 3 or 4 song demos that we put out to clubs and stuff, so they had an idea of who we were. But it was a while before we really had the thought to compile everything we had into a record. And as far as the recording process, a lot of the bass was digital, done MIDI through a keyboard. Quite a bit of it was done me plugged in through the interface too. Tyler had kind of the skeleton of a lot of the songs done. We would kind of use those to rehearse, come up with parts after we had learned the songs and rehearsed them, and sometimes even play them live. Then we would sit down and put them onto a track. And Tyler had a vision about how he wanted his songs to be. It was all the time that he would say, what should we do here? How do we fill this in? There was a lot of back and forth.
Did you do any backing vocals or anything like that for either that or Regional at Best?
Self-titled, yes. Not on Regional at Best, but I did on self-titled. I think all 3 of us are on singing at one part on I think Trapdoor. I think we tried, especially in concert, we tried to throw in 3-part harmony every now and then. Trees is one of the very first songs that existed as a 21 Pilots song. I think before we had even met Chris, Tyler and I were kind of collaborating on Trees way back, writing some of the keyboard lines together. It's so exciting to me to see how many people are listening to his music now. His music is so good, it should be heard by everybody in the world, and now it is. And it's really amazing to see how much passion there is for this band. He is always writing lyrics almost at any given time. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's got lyrics that he wrote when he was 19 that have yet to emerge into a 21 Pilots song, but they'll probably show up sooner or later. I had left by the time Regional at Best came out. Yeah, a lot of it was done digitally, to my memory. There's several tracks on Regional at Best that either were kind of reimagined from self-titled, or that we had been playing in shows, but that we didn't put on self-titled. Right around the 2-year mark that I started thinking, I wanted to go back to school. I didn't have 2 pennies to rub together. I just was not able to make enough money while we were trying to play shows. And that was getting in the way of me being able to pay my rent and getting in the way of us being able to book shows. It really became hard to fit it all in. And I remember I got real sick for a while too. And we were still trying to play shows, and I was just kind of getting worn down by it. That kind of was the final input into my decision to step away and kind of move on with my life. It was a tough decision. It was not a popular decision. Josh had just come along, I think a couple weeks before that. We may have played 2 or 3 shows together. So he just jumped into this project, and now, another member was leaving, and I know he and Tyler must have felt kind of betrayed. I think there was quite a few conversations leading up to it before either of us left. Neither one of us really sprung it on them. It was kind of a build-up that we were trying to work out a way for it to make it work, and then, in both our situations, we just couldn't make it work.
I just wonder if we can put on enough of a show with 2 people.
He started tinkering around with bass, I think, after I left. So I think I was just as surprised as everybody else was the very first time that he went out on stage with a bass. So about 1.5 years after I moved, I ended up moving back to Columbus to try to continue some classes there. I had still been friends with the guys, still been keeping in touch with the guys, and it turned out that they needed a roommate again at the band house. So I moved back in there, hung out with the guys a lot. They were starting to progress a little bit. They were a little bigger then, and we got to talking a lot. The guy who was kind of handling their merchandise at the time was kind of moving into a bigger role. He presented the idea to bring on somebody to do merchandise. I readily accepted at the time. I was thrilled to be considered. It wasn't a real big thing when I started. I remember the first time I went out with them to do merchandise, we went away for a weekend, and I did 2 or 3 shows at colleges. Not real big. And then we came home. We just had 1 bus. And they just blew up so quickly that the very next time that I went out with them was on a major headline tour. I just maintain the inventory, or I provide it to people at each turn that are going to sell it at each place that we play. And we were touring Blurryface for coming up on 3 years, I think. Blurryface set the stage for a meteoric rise.
Yeah.
We were playing smaller clubs still when I started. We were off for a couple of weeks, and then when we went back out on the road, we were in bigger buildings. And then we did that for a couple months, and then had a few weeks off, and then we went back out, and we were doing bigger buildings. It got bigger every time we went out on the road. Fans who have been around longer will recognize me a lot. Tyler will still say this and now. So we just wanted to make people think. We didn't want songs that were catchy and enjoyable just for the sake of being musically enjoyable. You don't even have to get the answers to all your problems. Sometimes it's enough, just to know that somebody has been there, or so that somebody else is going through something too. In that, it kind of can create a sense of unity. And I think his music has really done that. I learned a lot about myself through his lyrics and his vision, because they're poignant. Yes. And they're always meaningful, always. I'm really in the same boat as everybody else who's waiting on the next song to come out. I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to it. I don't know what to expect, but I do know it's going to be good.
Oh yeah,
because I know Tyler Joseph, and he doesn't put out anything that isn't good.